Hey, it's Nancy. Before we begin today, I just wanted to let you know that you can listen to Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music, included with Prime. For years, Alex Jelinek tried to figure out how to turn his passion for helping people into a career of service. First, he went to school to become an emergency medical responder, one step below a primary care paramedic. But before getting employment in that field, he switched directions and started working in law enforcement. He landed a job for CPIC, the Canadian Police Information Centre, which is operated by the RCMP's National Police Services Program. It's Canada's only national information sharing system, linking law enforcement and other public safety partners across the country. CPIC shares things like permanent records for people who are arrested, charged, or convicted of a crime. The public can also access some information from this government agency to find out if a vehicle or bike might be stolen. Alex Jelinek spent 6 months in his role with CPIC before he took his next step to become a sworn officer with the Calgary Police Service. From then on, he put on his uniform every day, never knowing what a shift might bring. Very early on, he responded to a traumatic call that would haunt him for the rest of his life.
I never wanted to encounter that, right? Like I never wished that upon anybody, and it's absolutely, it's horrible.
I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. Today, on Crime Beat, I share details of a senseless attack, a harrowing life-saving attempt, and the homicide investigation that ensued. This is Shattered Dreams. March of 2020 was a time of uncertainty across the globe. The World Health Organization declared the novel coronavirus disease outbreak, also known as COVID-19, a global pandemic. Suddenly, schools were closed, travel was restricted, many people were quarantined, and rules for social distancing and masks were implemented across Canada. In the early days of the pandemic, for first responders, much of their work was business as usual, answering calls for routine service and emergency help. That was the case for rookie Calgary Police Constable Alex Jelinek. It was still dark outside early in the morning when he pulled into the Calgary Police 2 District office in southwest Calgary to start his shift on March 14, 2020. It was a particularly frigid and blustery winter day, so the officer added a few extra layers for warmth as he changed into his police uniform. By 6 a.m., his vehicle and equipment were all ready for a 12-hour tour of duty. Then he joined the Alpha Shift team meeting.
So we'll check in with each other, we'll see if there's any active cases that anybody needs help with, or if there's any duties the sergeant needs to assign.
The officers talked about an incident about 3 hours earlier when their colleagues had responded to a break-in at an area business. But their conversation was interrupted by a 911 call from a southwest Calgary strip mall.
So it came in as a priority 1 call of a male who was stating that he was stabbed. And the call location was the Shell gas station on the corner of Bow Trail and 37th Street Southwest. Priority 1 means basically get there as soon as possible. That's a lights and sirens call. So if you're driving on the roads, you'll see police that are going lights and sirens. Those are almost always priority 1 calls.
Constable Jelinek and his colleague, Constable Colton Martin, took the call. They ran to their separate vehicles and with lights and sirens on, battled icy roads to arrive at the scene within 6 minutes.
It was cold that morning. I got out of the car and it was quiet. We get out of the vehicle, we were looking around, we don't see anybody. We go into the gas station. The clerk is there and she's obviously very frightened. And then she's pointing to this gentleman on the floor. I flip him onto his back and I see his pupils dilate. So I check his pulse right away because I'm not getting any response from him. I felt 2 heartbeats and then nothing.
He had always dreaded this moment, but Constable Jelinek was prepared.
I'm trying everything I can, all the skills that I've learned, and everything happens so quickly, and so quickly.
This was the first time he was forced to put his life-saving training into action.
I go through 2 cycles of CPR. 30 compressions in one cycle, so approximately a minute, give or take, before EMS gets there. They cut his shirt off, and then I could see the extent of what was happening. He had approximately 6 to 7 stab wounds all throughout his body. And one thing that I could visualize it today. Some of those stab wounds weren't bleeding. There was one under his armpit that was. And that's, when you work in a first responder field, you kind of know that anything under the armpit that's really close to the heart, that's really bad. That's really bad. And that one was bleeding profusely. So I tried to stop it while EMS was starting CPR. I tried to put pressure on it the best I could. They called time of death not too long after.
Despite their best efforts, the man passed away.
It was absolutely devastating, and what I remember is looking at my hands. And I had gloves on, but absolutely just dripping and with blood.
The officer got up and went outside. One by one, he peeled each of the blood-soaked gloves off his hands and threw them in the garbage. By then, a large police presence had arrived at the strip mall.
My sergeant, seeing me, looking at my hands, he asked me if I'm okay, and I said, well, I need a little bit of time, right? And so he assigns me what's known as a continuity spot behind the building. And when there's a crime scene, we don't want anybody coming in or out until detectives can come in and look at the scene and capture all the evidence that they could. So he assigned me behind the building because the whole building is now considered the crime scene. And there I waited, just thinking about the incident over and over again.
The gas station is part of a strip mall on the very outer edge of an inner-city residential neighborhood in southwest Calgary. It also borders a main thoroughfare that takes motorists into downtown. The strip mall had a number of businesses, including a bank, a cannabis dispensary, and a French bistro that was still under construction. On March 14, 2020, following the stabbing death, the entire area was marked off with police tape. Calgary Police Homicide Detective John Pearson was assigned as the primary investigator.
So initially, all we had is that the victim had walked by the pumps into the store asking for help.
This all happened very early on a cold Saturday morning, and police said there were no witnesses to the stabbing.
We started looking around for anything relevant, and the way things are dispatched out and the way calls come in, our analysts do a great job of trying to grab some of that information, start pulling it together, because we don't know what's related.
Detective Pearson hoped surveillance cameras in the area would shed light on what had transpired.
Everyone has cameras. The issue we had is not everyone has good cameras. We send people immediately down there, so by 8 o'clock, as soon as businesses are open, as soon as people are showing up to the strip mall, we're asking them for help. So we had Detective Nelson kind of head man our CCTV review. Basically anywhere around that area, and including the surrounding neighborhood area, we canvass for video. Because we just don't know, at this point, we still don't know what happened.
Investigators found the victim still had his wallet, but they said it was still too early to rule out robbery as a possible motive.
It's not uncommon for people, especially now, not to have a lot of cash on them. but sometimes even $20 is $20. So a robbery is still a feasible option. It could have been a fight, there could have been a dispute. We just don't know exactly what happens at this point.
Police used the victim's driver's license to tentatively identify him as 56-year-old Christophe Herblin.
We learned that he was your everyday average Calgarian. He was a gentleman that was a chef. He was well respected in that community. He was in the process of building and opening his own restaurant in that same strip mall. And that he was very proud of what he was doing, and he's finally accomplished basically his lifelong dream of opening his own restaurant.
That dream was just weeks from becoming a reality, and it was supposed to be a crowning achievement in his career.
It was going to be called croque saveur, which is really like a sandwich, like a good open-faced sandwich, and just doing like some traditional French things like croque monsieur or like some good soups and salads.
That's Christophe Herblin's wife, Jean.
Very much a French casual bistro, just good food. Nothing super high-end, just a place you can go and enjoy a good meal and then maybe have like some takeout, kind of like a deli where you could pick up foods like that and have a glass of wine or a good coffee.
Christophe was born and raised in France, where he first fell in love with cooking.
He had gone to hotel school at 14, like he left home at 14. European people tend to, if you're going to do the trades, you start early. And he worked all around Europe.
He moved to Canada in 1988, where he worked at the Pines Resort Hotel in Digby, Nova Scotia, the Fairmont Royal York in Toronto, and the Hyatt Regency, Vancouver. That's where he met and fell in love with Jean, who is also a chef.
Cute guy, had, dark hair and the European, way of dressing and the French accent. We worked in the same restaurant at the Hyatt, and I found out he rode motorcycles, and I had a dirt bike that I couldn't get running, and I asked him if he could help me get it running, and of course he did. And then, we had a lot of things in common, and he was a really nice guy. We were a very good team together because, I really respected him as a chef, and then he taught me a lot, and he was just fun to be around.
Sharing their passion for cooking, the couple worked on several Hawaiian islands together before settling in Calgary. In 2000, they had a daughter named Carolyn. Jean became a stay-at-home mom, and Christophe focused on his career as an executive chef. Carolyn got to experience her father's culinary delights from an early age.
I was very spoiled. I was very picky growing up, but as I got older, I did have a better palate for different foods, and it was really cool to try different things, and my dad really liked trying new dishes and new cultures, so I got to try a lot of different interesting foods. He's put a lot of effort and passion into his dishes, and it was always nice to, see what he would make for dinner that night, and it was always a surprise.
After years of working at some of Calgary's most exclusive restaurants and golf clubs, he was finally ready to go out on his own.
If you work in the hospitality industry, or you're a cook or a chef or whatever, your dream is to have your own place, right? So you can do exactly what you want.
I was happy for him, and he took me in between one of my classes when I was in university, and he showed me everything. He brought me inside and It's like, this is where like our stoves are gonna go, and this is where the display case will be. And he was just thrilled to be in the experience and work towards his dream.
He was just weeks away from opening day when those dreams were shattered. Jean told me everything began to unravel in the middle of the night, Saturday, March 14th.
We were sleeping, and he got a notification on his phone that the alarm was going off. And, we both woke up. And it was like minus 20 and snow, and so it was miserable out. And I just said, be careful. And, but he was going to go no matter what, so.
On his way to the bistro, Christoph called 911.
911, for what town or city?
Yeah, I'm reporting a breaking that's happening.
In what town or city, please?
In Calgary. Well, I'm just getting to the site. I saw some people getting inside, and I'm going in.
Okay, so do not go in. I will bring police on the line for you.
Calgary Police, what is the address of the emergency?
It's 3816 Boat Trail Southwest.
And what is your name?
Christoph Herberlin. Herberlin.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
My alarm went off at the store, and I'm getting in. The front window is broken in, but I saw some people going in.
Okay, so stay safe and away. I do not want you approaching the business, okay? So alarm was activated, you attended, and you see that someone's broken in?
Yeah.
What's the name of the business?
It's called Croque Saveurs.
Perfect. Now, are any weapons involved or mentioned?
I don't know.
Do you see any lights on inside at this time?
Yeah, there's lights inside. The lights are on right now because the place is in construction, and it's on all the time.
Oh, the building's under construction?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a police car just pulled in.
What happened next was captured by a responding officer's body-worn camera.
Okay, 1218, I am out. Got visual in the front of the building. And 1218, everything seems to be covered with paper. I can't see any movement inside, but can confirm the lights are on. And 1218, confirm there's glass break on the front.
The video shows the officer pulling into the parking lot where Christoph was waiting.
Okay, if you just want to maybe pull your car up beside mine.
Yep.
Then, with guns drawn, officers entered the restaurant to investigate.
Okay, do your room. Steady, police! Yeah. Okay, come out.
So they ran out the back, maybe?
Yeah, looks like it.
Christoph joined the officers inside. He told them his business had been targeted a month earlier.
Because I had 4 break-ins since I'm using this place, and then 2 times they broke through the wall, and once they were able to rob the store next door.
Yeah.
There was a cannabis dispensary next door. Christoph told police that thieves had previously cut through the wall and managed to get away with a substantial amount of cash and marijuana. Both break-ins were reported, but police were never able to identify the offenders, so no charges were laid. Since then, Christoph had planned to put in a roll-down steel security shutter to protect his business, but that was taking time to get installed. In the meantime, he put in an alarm system, which is how he was alerted to the break-in that morning. Once police were certain the intruders were no longer in the building, they left. Detective Pearson said Christoph stayed to repair the damage to the front of his business.
So he did his best to secure it, but he also found that the alarm system had been disabled. So instead of leaving the business insecure, because obviously somebody had made an attempt to get in there, is he was going to wait around to the morning until somebody could come secure it and fix the alarm.
Meanwhile, not far from the restaurant, Jean was still in bed. She hadn't heard from Christoph since he left the house at 3 a.m.
I woke up like with a start at about 6:20, and I had a really bad feeling. And I tried to phone him, and I just thought, maybe he wasn't home because, he was down at the police station or, doing something like that. I phoned him and texted him, and I hadn't heard from him. So I went down to the shop, and I drove down 37th Street, and I could see the police tape from like a few blocks away. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe, someone broke in or whatever, and, there was a robbery. So that's why the police tape was there.
As Jean got closer, she knew something was very wrong.
And then I drove up and I parked the truck, and I could see the Mazda in the parking lot. And I could see this I could see the smashed windows. And I was walking towards it, and then one of the officers came up to me, and I just said, "That's my husband's car." And then he got one of the head people to come over, and we went and sat in our truck, and he said he was with the homicide unit. And then I knew what that meant.
Jean was inconsolable, and somehow she had to summon the strength to tell her daughter Carolyn the devastating news.
Horrible. You can't even. You wonder if this is real, if this is just something that, I'm dreaming, or it's just so surreal.
The night prior, I had gone to a friend's house. I was house sitting and babysitting, just watching over the 16-year-old little sister. And I had went to bed and everything was normal, and I was studying for courses. And well, I woke up and my mom had phoned me, and I answered the phone, and she was crying and stressed, and she said, "You need to come outside right now." And I was just like, what's going on? What's going on? And I got to the door, and she walked in, and she said, Papa's been killed. And I thought I was dreaming, and I thought it was a joke, and I passed out because I couldn't believe it.
A family friend drove Jean and Carolyn to Calgary Police Headquarters, where they hoped they'd learn more about what had happened to Christoph.
They did tell me he was stabbed. I didn't know if he had died in the cold by himself or anything. So it was, your mind does crazy things.
Yeah, it was just like a bomb had been dropped on my entire life.
Calgary Police Detective Pearson said they didn't have a lot of information at that point. They hoped the victim's wife and daughter could help them piece together what happened in the 3 hours following the 3 a.m. alarm call.
We need to find out what time he got there, what happened, what she knew, did anything happen? Did he call her and say something's going on or something weird's happening? Or was there an issue that with somebody that he's working with? We really need to try to figure out those answers to try to get an avenue to start looking down.
Police were lacking a motive, suspects, and forensic evidence to push the case forward.
We had nothing at the scene forensically. We didn't see any discarded cigarettes. We didn't see anything like where they're grabbing a door, where we might get fingerprints from. They had gloves on. So all these traditional techniques become somewhat difficult to deal with.
But you'll remember that within hours of the murder taking place, homicide detective Evan Nelson had been sent to find CCTV. He went business to business and was able to view videos from several locations, providing different vantage points and angles.
The video was fairly good, and it captured a series of events throughout the morning.
Using the surveillance video from the various sources, the officer was able to edit together a timeline. It all started at 1:41 a.m. Christoph was still in bed sleeping when a Dodge Caliber was captured driving through the parking lot in front of the restaurant. It then cut through the alley behind the strip mall. A little over an hour later, at 2:46 a.m., that same vehicle appears on video again, driving south in the alley behind Christoph's future restaurant, which was beside a cannabis store and a bank.
There was heavy snow at that time, and they were spinning out, and somebody came out of the Caliber, heavy clothing, and then walked right up to the landing area of the liquor store and grabbed what looked like a brick or a rock from that area, and then went back into the alley to the east and then around the strip mall. So at that time, what you see is somebody come around the businesses around the Royal Bank, close to the Shell as well, and then come back to the front doors where this is at the cafe, where they throw a brick or a rock through the front doors and then enter inside.
The second man got out of the Dodge Caliber and minutes later also went inside the bistro.
They were in there for a number of minutes, and there was an alarm call to Calgary Police, who responded, and they responded to the front of the business, and the people who broke in exited back through the back alley and ran away.
2 minutes later, at 3:10 a.m., Christoph Herblin arrived after being woken up by the alarm and racing to the scene while on the phone with 911. The two men are seen running through the alley before hopping into the Dodge Caliber and driving away. 5 minutes later, at 3:15, police arrived, taking us up to the events captured in the officer's body-worn camera footage. Police leave the scene at 3:39 a.m. After that, Christoph is seen on CCTV going inside, where it's believed he patched up the shattered door panels. He goes outside and sweeps up broken glass, then locks up and gets into his car, where he sat for about an hour and a half, until just before 6 a.m. when he goes back into the bistro. At that time, investigators were surprised to see the Dodge Caliber involved in the earlier break-in return to the strip mall.
So the second time when the Caliber comes back, it drops off two individuals.
Christoph was still inside the restaurant. One of the men is seen with a pipe-type object in his hand. He walks to the victim's vehicle and smashes the driver's side window and windshield, then casually walked off to the west with the pipe still in his hand. From the video, it's clear that Christoph either heard or saw the vandalism. He goes outside to investigate, scanning the parking lot as he walks to his vehicle. Given the timeline Detective Nelson had built, he was sure the stabbing would be captured on video as well. But the camera that provided the angle he needed failed at that exact moment.
It captures things like a motion-activated captures, so they can be a few minutes long or a few seconds long. So at that time, I could see that the victim was nearby his car, and there was somebody who was running towards the victim at that time. It appeared like they were running pretty quick, and unfortunately the video cut out right before the contact between that person and the victim. The motion just stopped. So there was about 15 seconds there that would have been very important coverage to see the last moments.
Detective Nelson and primary investigator Detective John Pearson couldn't believe the stroke of bad luck.
We have one video that's basically at 6:03 a.m. We have Mr. Herblin looking at his vehicle, and he's on the driver's side because his vehicle's actually backed on the parking lot. And at the same time, we have our second offender running towards Mr. Herblin and his vehicle, and then we lose the video.
Christoph Herblin was fatally injured in those missing seconds of video.
Extremely frustrating because it still doesn't tell us what happened or what precipitated this altercation or what went awry.
Investigators believed, given what they saw on CCTV, that the people who broke into the bistro were also responsible for the murder.
But we could not figure out why they would come back, why Mr. Herblin would be assaulted and stabbed and ultimately killed. It didn't make any sense. At the time, we couldn't figure out why. Initially, we thought maybe it was personal because of that. Maybe that's why we started going down is there something that's outside what we're looking at? Are we looking at somebody that's got a beef or a gripe with Mr. Herblin? Because that was almost like a personal attack on his vehicle, which, again, coming back, it doesn't make sense for a typical break and enter.
But investigators still weren't able to determine who the suspects were. Who were these mystery offenders, and why did they kill Chef Christoph Herblin?
It was just so senseless. Just so senseless.
You never think that anything like that would ever happen to you until it does.
That's next time on Crime Beat. Crime Beat is written and produced by me, Nancy Hixt, with senior producer Dila Velasquez. Audio editing and sound design is by Rob Johnston. Special thanks to photographer-editor Danny Lantella for his work on this episode. Thank you to Jesse Weisner, our Crime Beat production assistant. And thanks to Chris Bassett, the VP of Network Content Production and Distribution and Editorial Standards for Global News. I would love to have you tell a friend about this podcast. There are 6 seasons of stories you can listen to and share. And if you can please consider rating and reviewing Crime Beat on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can find me on Facebook at Nancy Hixt Crime Beat and on Instagram at nancy.hixt. That's Hixt. Thanks again for listening. Please join me next time.